First of all, how many Brits are on the planes that have come out of Sudan, do you know?
Well, we've commenced an evacuation mission in the last 24, 48 hours, and we expect there to be approximately 200 to 300 people who have been relocated from Sudan in the last few flights. But we are now commencing an extensive operation working with over 1,000 personnel from the RAF and the armed forces. The Home Office has sent out officials from Border Force to help with the processing, and this whole operation is being coordinated by the Foreign Office with leadership from the Prime Minister.
Germany's Foreign Minister says they would never leave their citizens to their own devices in Sudan, unlike other countries. Obviously a dig at the Brits. What would you say in response to that?
Well, I would refute that suggestion that is a criticism of the United Kingdom. We're in a very different situation to other countries. We've got a larger cohort of British nationals in Sudan compared to many other countries. We have an extensive operation to support diplomats, but also British passport holders, British nationals, their dependents, and we've commenced our evacuation mission, and it's in process as we speak.
After many other countries?
Listen, there has been a very serious situation in Sudan. It's been escalating over several days. We welcome the ceasefire that is currently there. The UK has been pivotal in those discussions. We want to maintain that ceasefire, but people's lives have been in danger. We now have an operation which is up and running, which is going to be supporting British nationals.
Why didn't we bring civilians out earlier?
We want to support, well, we are. That is what we are doing. I think we can quibble about particular times, but what we are actually doing here is setting out an extensive programme of support. As I said,
do it earlier?
We've put in over 1,000 armed forces personnel who are out there. We are doing it now. We have been working on this for several days.
The Germans say we were slower. The Germans and French were bringing out British citizens because we weren't doing it.
I don't think it's right to make this some kind of competition.
It's not a competition.
We've got a very different
terrified for their lives.
The UK has a very different scenario and community and cohort in terms of numbers compared to other countries. The UK government has been overseeing and monitoring the situation very closely for weeks now. A decision has been made on the back of proper planning, proper assessment of the security and risks posed in Sudan, and we now have an in-flight operation to evacuate.
Still having to make their own way. Still having to make their own way to the airport, so they're still in as much danger. There's a ceasefire in place, but it's a loose ceasefire.
Well, we are now relocating British nationals
but they have to make their own way
and
to the
their dependents. Well, that is the assessment based on security matters which have informed that decision. This is a standard practice in terms of the advice that the Foreign Office is issuing to British nationals. It is context-specific. It is highly dependent on the very sensitive and changing and fast-moving circumstances in Sudan. I'm not going to sit here in a studio in London and say that and dictate what should be happening there on the ground. We are in close contact. The government is in close contact with the armed forces who are assessing the situation. We've got to weigh up a lot of very complex factors before decisions like this are made, bearing in mind the numbers that we're dealing with. But what is clear is that we have started an evacuation mission. British nationals have got support from the Foreign Office and the UK.
I hear you. This is a developing crisis. People will end up crossing in small boats to the UK from Sudan. What are you going to do with them?
Well, again, I mean, I wouldn't want to necessarily make that an inevitability. There is a global migration crisis.
What are we going to do if
there
they
is
land
a global migration
what will you do with
crisis? Our position in Sudan is that we are supporting British nationals, British passport holders, and their dependents.
That's not my question, Home Secretary. I'm asking what's going to happen to people who tip up in Dover on a small boat from Sudan.
Well, that's why we are passing a new law at the moment to deal with people who come here illegally. There is no good reason for anybody to get into a small boat and cross the channel in search of a life in the United Kingdom. If you are someone who is fleeing Sudan for humanitarian reasons, there are various mechanisms you can use. The UNHCR is present in the region, and they are the right mechanism by which people should apply if they do want to seek asylum in the United Kingdom.
OK. Let me ask you about Robert Jenrick. He said yesterday that people fleeing from Sudan and others, uncontrolled illegal migration is how he described it. He said that they threaten to cannibalise the UK's compassion, essentially calling migrants subhuman. He was saying that they don't adopt our values.
I think that the point that the Minister is making is that unprecedented and uncontrolled levels of immigration into the United Kingdom are unsustainable and unacceptable. I think that's what the vast majority of British people would
not adopting
say.
Our values, though?
I think what we are seeing is an unacceptable level of people coming here illegally. 45,000 people coming here without a right to be here.
We only have a
illegally.
finite amount of time, Home Secretary. If you can answer my question, what did he mean by not adopting our values?
Yeah, people who are coming here illegally are breaking our laws. They are criminals and they don't have a right to be here. That is at odds with our values of upholding the rule of law, generosity,
but as we
and
know,
helping
people who come here, it's not illegal, is it, to come here on a boat?
We've had this discussion before,
yes,
Kay,
we have.
And we disagree. It is illegal to get on a boat to come here illegally. You don't have a legal permission to be in the United Kingdom.
Get on one of the boats.
You don't have a legal right to be in the United Kingdom. It is not a lawful means of entry. And we have lawful and safe routes of entry whereby people are issued visas or they are issued permissions to come. That is the way people should apply to come into the United Kingdom, not on a boat, surreptitiously, dangerously, fatally so, as we saw at the end of last year, where they're being exploited by evil people smuggling gangs.
Better to stay in Sudan with the warlords fighting against each other. How confident are you that your plan to get around the European judges and the British laws in your immigration bill, which we'll hear more about, will work?
Well, we've introduced our bill. It's now nearing completion in the Commons. Today is our final stage of debate today.
Yeah.
And we've introduced some clauses to enable a greater decision-making power on the part of the Home Secretary. So we avoid a scenario that we saw last June, whereby the Home Secretary made a decision to relocate people from the United Kingdom, people who had arrived here illegally, to Rwanda. English courts had upheld that decision. And at the 11th hour, a judge in Strasbourg, pursuant to an opaque process whereby the United Kingdom was not represented, undermined that decision. That's totally unacceptable from a democratic point of view. And we have introduced a clause which enables the Home Secretary to consider the case on its individual merits and have a discretion to possibly avoid that scenario replaying again.
We're struggling for time, but I know you want to talk about policing numbers as well. You'll tell me that the numbers have gone up, but they're still lower than 2010 levels, aren't they?
Well, we are confident that we're on track to reach our target, our manifesto pledge of recruiting 20,000 new police officers. If we achieve that...
21,000 previously.
If we achieve that goal, we will be in excess of 2010 numbers. We will be at record levels. We will have the highest number of police officers in history in England and Wales. I think that's a huge achievement by policing.
We don't have it at the moment, do we?
A big achievement by the Home Office, actually, and actually a great achievement for the British people and public safety.
Because so many police officers are retiring, 40% of the police officers in this country have not been serving for up to 5 years. We have an inexperienced police force.
No, I disagree with that. We've put in £3 billion to support this unprecedented and massive recruitment effort. The new recruits all have the proper training, and we are ensuring that on a net assessment, we will have, and we're confident of reaching our target of the highest number of police officers on record. So even accounting for attrition and people leaving the force, we are confident we'll still be in excess of any level that we've seen before. I think that is really good for the British public. They will see more police on the beat. They will see more police responding to antisocial behaviour, violence and theft and burglary. That's what the British people want, and that's what this government's delivering.
One quick question before I let you go. You're heading to Northampton today, I believe, to see some new police officers on the beat and otherwise. You said that they should no longer pander to political correctness. What did you mean?
Well, I think whilst our police officers are brave and excellent on the whole, I think there has been a tendency for the public to grow weary of some of the time-wasting behaviour that police have been engaged in. So I don't want the police to be engaged in politically debates on social media about gender. I don't want the police to be shying away from tackling really important issues like grooming gangs because of political correctness. I don't want the police to be I want the police to be using their stop and search powers because that's an effective tool to reduce violence and save lives. And in some instances, we've seen political correctness get in the way of common sense policing.
Full and honest answers as usual. Thanks very much indeed for joining us on the programme. Thank you, Home Secretary.